Scaling your web agency to few $1 million in revenue. Who does not want that, right?
Yeah.
What sales lesson and methodology do you need to apply to grow your web agency? Nick Gulic is here to share this and much more. So welcome, Nick. How are you?
Hey, Devinder. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So before we begin and dive into, sales lessons that will bring me money and a lot of listeners more money, why don't you give a quick introduction about your online life?
Sure. Okay. I guess first, I always wanted to be a software developer growing up and going through school, and I did computer science at university.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for some full-time work, and I found a job in accounting, very different field. And I thought that could be a good temporary role to do. And 7 years later, I was speaking to the partners, and they were talking about making me a partner in the firm. And I realized that that temporary job had become my life. And, I wasn't doing computer science anymore. I wasn't doing anything online. And so looked for something else and got hired by an outsourcing agency who were doing outsourcing primarily with accounts and bookkeeping and things like that. And this was before Dropbox and there were cloud. The cloud wasn't a thing back then. So my job was to get them clients. And that's the business that I grew quite large. I did that for a while, about 7 years as well. About 7 years. And then I moved on, started consulting. I did consulting for a while, then pivoted into websites and a marketing agency, which kind of got me to where I am today, except now I have a business partner and a team and doing all the fun stuff.
Okay, so you came out of that vicious cycle of working for someone to your hard-working cycle of working for your own thing, because even this is vicious, but this is very fruitful because you're putting energy into something that's your own. So
yes, definitely.
So let's start with few sales lessons here. Now I'm gonna quote you here what you mentioned in the prep doc. Like, I've grown an outsourcing business from $250,000 to $5 million in a year as a sole business development manager. There are many sales lessons I've learned, which I apply to my agency now. Now, what are the sales lessons that you're referring to here, and how can you share? How many of them you can share with us?
Sure. Yeah, look, I'm open book. Okay, so one of the big things is systems. You need systems to sell. My first inbound inquiry that I ever got, I remember it because it was so embarrassing. The person called and said, "Hey, I need an accountant. How much do you guys charge? What's your hourly rate?"
Okay.
So I told him the hourly rate. He said, "Thank you," and he hung up. That's it. No client. If you allow them to control the conversation, you're not working off your system, you're working off theirs, and the buyer's system may not work in your favor. So one of the things I learned was coming up with a system to sell and making sure that I took control of that conversation. Mm-hmm. The other part of it is when you're in an industry like ours, like in the web space, there's a lot of people out there, and it's very easy to become a commodity.
Yep.
And so if you're a commodity, you're someone calls and says, "I need a website, get me a website, how much is it?" Done. And it's very hard to differentiate if you allow that to happen. It's very hard to charge good rates if you allow that to happen. So if instead you position yourself as the expert and you take control of that conversation and you show them, and you're essentially a consultant to them, and you explain how you're going to solve their problems, that allows you to kind of be a bit more premium. And it means that you're not someone who's just taking orders. And if you're taking orders, you're going to be doomed to freelancer life rather than agency life. So there's a lot of education as well. What I was doing back then, there was no cloud, and I was trying to get people to give me their paperwork so then I could send that to our office in India to get processed. Mm-hmm. And back then, that was unheard of. I mean, people were used to someone coming into their office. So in order to actually give them the solution, I had to educate them on the process and understand their business well enough to explain how it could work. So that education is very important as well. It's definitely part of our sales process now. Being prepared to throw away leads that aren't any good. That is something I think a lot of people struggle with. You have to be prepared to say no.
Yep.
Yeah. if someone is not going to respect your process, they're going to be a bad client. A bad prospect is going to be a bad client, and they can ruin your life. My consulting business, I was getting a lot of bad leads, and it hit a point where I started trying to take them on, and it made my life hell. I didn't enjoy working with them, and I actually started to hate my business at the time. That's one of the main reasons why I pivoted into marketing and web design. And the other lesson is actually not so much sales. It's actually kind of with everything. You really need to be ruthless with your time. When you're trying to get clients or when you're trying to deliver work, whatever it is, you get a lot of distractions coming up. People will call you, they'll email you, and they're things that other people want you to do, not necessarily things you want to do. So I'm very good at ignoring my phone and ignoring my emails. Sometimes if I haven't got through what I need to do, people don't hear from me for days. And that's, unfortunately, sometimes people get a little bit upset, but ultimately it means that I get to grow my business better. They're probably the big things, yeah.
So taking that, the initial example of prospective client calling you and asking for your hourly rate and then hanging up the phone. Yep. Now that's one scenario. Like if you fast forward few years of your experience and, learning the process, if again, similar kind of client comes to you and asks you for your hourly rate, how would you handle that client?
Okay. So now, if I was in that same business, it'd be, well, look, the rate, it depends on what work we're doing. Can I ask you a few questions about your business?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then they say yes or no. If they say no, look, just give me a price. I say, look, I don't think we're going to work together, and I hang up on them. But if they work with me, then it means that I'm in a position where I'm asking them questions. And then I need to find out the situation. Tell me about your business. Tell me about how you're solving this problem right now. What are the issues with the way you're doing it now? And then you start to lead into your solution.
And during this process of your improvement, did you document or made any template structure for things you were repeating on every sale contact with a prospective client?
Sort of, yes and no. Yes, biggest things did a lot of automation around tasks. So there was a process to follow when someone makes an inquiry. You need to call them, they need to send them an email, you need to do things. When you reach out to someone, you make a touch point, you need to follow up on that. And so I created a system that automatically will schedule my next task for me. That was very important. The actual scripting, that wasn't when I started. I didn't do that until I started hiring people. Then I started to write scripts for them, which helped them a lot. I didn't need it because I was continually evolving. And I think the continual evolution is very important. But I didn't need to necessarily document it at the time. I did when I hired. The other templating areas and things that I systemized were things like, your proposal process, making that quicker. Handover, when you land a client, being able to hand over to the team quickly, because you can lose a day in doing that sort of stuff normally. So I got that down to about 10 minutes for a proposal and about 25, 30 minutes for a handover, which, very quick.
Writing a proposal is the most boring thing to do. Just go to better proposals. That's better.
That's actually my favorite tool at the moment. So, yeah.
It's like you're spending 3-4 hours in writing something that will just give you in 10 minutes, and you can just edit out few things that are there according to the client to whom you're sending the proposal, and you're done. It's like you're paying a little for that service to save a lot of your own time. And, in this process, while you were working for that company, in this process of, working with clients, was the focus on getting more clients at the same price point or getting more value from the existing clients?
Well, one leads to the other usually. Our focus was always getting more clients. We'd make sure the retention was very important. So if we got a client, usually we had them for life because the service was good and the price was good. Once you get enough clients on board, that number one leads to opportunities within them. People will ask you for more services anyway. It was once we got to a sort of critical mass, I think it was about 2 or 3 million a year in revenues. That's when we started looking at our existing client base and additional services we could offer. But you need to keep growing. If you're not growing, you're usually going backwards. Very hard to stay steady. So,
And was upselling the part of that whole process?
Upselling, not so much. Cross-selling, definitely. Upselling, well, my approach has always been I give people the solution. And if they have a problem, here's your solution. If I need to upsell something, it's usually that it isn't really necessary for that solution, or I'm not doing a proper job in making a recommendation. So I give them the solution, and then that's it. There's no need to upsell anything. But sometimes there are additional services unrelated, things like web hosting, or digital marketing or something that maybe aren't the critical problem area, but they may have some interest in. Usually, though, that happens after they're on board, the cross-selling.
Okay, now let's get from your employee life to your agency owner life. So you left your job, started your own agency. How did you get your first few clients? Now that is the most nervous part of starting the own business, right?
So look, I did have, I had in between agency, from employer to agency, I had the consulting business. And the consulting business, I got my clients just by saying, this is what I'm doing now. And people approach me. I had a pretty good reputation. I was a solutions guy. Used to give solutions to everyone. So they knew that I could help them. And I think I had a good 6-7 clients come on board very, very early. When I changed to web design, marketing agency, the same thing. I just told people what I was doing. I made a few announcements and I had early stage a number of clients come on board, which, then referrals get you the next batch. So, yeah.
Okay. Again, I'm going to quote you. Now, you said that the agency really took off and the business and the marketing background I had, the sites that I built, got some real results for my clients. Now, what specific things did you do while building that online presence for clients and that got them the results?
Okay. Well, I mean, to be honest, it's pretty basic, right? First thing is always matching, the site isn't for a client. And this is one thing that a lot of them don't realize. They say, I like this.
Exactly. Because people just focus on the site. Hey, I want this font, this color, but they're not what is actually the site going to produce the result.
That's right.
People hardly focus on that actually.
Yeah. So what I was looking at was, well, the site isn't for you, it's for your client. What does your client need to get them to take action? And that was my focus point on everything. Everything I did was, what do we want to happen and how do we make it happen? How do we use design? How do we use the layer? No, that content isn't relevant because no one cares except for you. And there was a lot of hard conversations within that, educating people on that. Ultimately the clients don't actually care about you.
Yeah.
They don't care they care about themselves, right? So if they care about themselves, what do you need to give them? Well, something about them, about their problem. Help them solve the problem, explain to them how it's going to help them by speaking to you. And that was getting the results.
And once the website was done, did you involve the client in measuring the results so that even he or she can feel good about the investment he's done on the website?
Well, yes and no. So yes, I usually had analytics set up where I could, monitor traffic and, goals, conversions and things like that. Mm-hmm. But also the clients would usually come back to me and tell me that it's going well, because my job was to make their phone ring, or to, for them to get messages from their website. There was one client where she was paying $4,500 a month to a marketing agency, and they had kind of put her site on like a lease plan thing where she was paying money to lease a website from them, and for them to run SEO, and I think they also put her on some sort of directory. And $4,500 a month, and
terrible idea.
Ages ago. Well, when she first started doing that, it was working. She was getting a good 20, 30 phone calls a week, and these aren't like low ticket services. Their minimum fee would be like $600, and max would be $20,000, $30,000. I built her a website. This was one of my first clients, so I built her a whole website for $500.
We all been there.
Yeah. So I built her a website for $500. She fired that agency immediately. And then I put her on a maintenance retainer where I was maintaining a site and doing it whatever she needed. And that gradually increased in scope. And then I liaised with, I found her a good SEO agency, liaised with them for a while. And they did okay for a good year and a half. And then she ended up getting rid of them because performance went down a little bit. And now it's just me. And she's spending, it's about $1,000 a month with me to do everything. And that's where she gets all her clients from now. So, and she's one of my biggest fans and a good friend now as well. And things like that is kind of why, one of the main reasons why I actually identified websites as a good opportunity for me to get into, because a lot of people are getting ripped off.
Yeah.
You can learn how to use a tool, anyone can pick up a crayon, doesn't make you Picasso. So
Exactly.
you can learn how to use a page builder. It doesn't mean you know how to build a site for someone. And that's what's happening now, I think, in the industry is a lot of people are stepping in,
Or
and doing it, which is fine.
even design a website just because you got a page builder, you can drag and drop things, or you can start from a template. Man, the results, I've seen horrible results. People calling themselves web. To be honest, everyone has their
Yeah.
own thing. Design is a very
Yeah.
subjective thing. But
Yeah.
having said that, I see a lot of people who claim to be a big shot designers, and guess what? Those designs, at least it doesn't get in my head. I don't know if the clients like it or not. And this and getting, people getting ripped off. I recently got a client who got ripped off, not just one, but two big agencies. And that person was literally, on the cry mode. Like, this person charged me 5 figures, and guess what? Even the homepage doesn't look good. Like, good in the sense the images are like spread over. The basic structure was not holding, when I asked them why it's happening, it's not our issue, it's your browser issue. And and I sometimes feel like, when you're working with a big agency, the communication, the human touch in communication gets lost somewhere.
Yeah, it can, definitely. So, yeah.
So now let's talk about people who start agency. Now, a lot of people start web agencies. I'm sure you've met a lot of people who are, and they start an agency, they hit a plateau after, serving a bunch of clients. According to you, why does this happen? Like, why they cannot grow beyond a certain point?
Usually it's marketing. They're not marketing. People think that you can go to a networking group once a week and that's enough to keep you in business. And it can, if you don't want to grow very far, it can for a while. When you launch, you're going to get people jumping on board straight away because it's like, oh, you're doing this, great, I need that. And you're going to be quite affordable when you start. Watch what happens when you raise your prices. You start trying to charge a decent rate for a website. All the people that came on board early, they're not going to want you to do it unless they're really convinced you're going to do a great job. What you need is people who don't know you yet. You need to bring new people into your circle. The people who know you, that source is exhausted now. You've got them on board, or they've used you, or they're aware of you and they're not going to use you. So you need new people into your sphere. And that means marketing. It means lead generation, whether that's advertising or SEO or anything, or being active on social media or running a podcast. You need to do something to get more leads and more new people into your sphere.
No, this doesn't bring me leads, man. Well, I don't do much direct clients work, to be honest. I don't have, I only have few vintage direct clients. I mostly work with other agencies. That's my, comfort zone. But I only work with referral clients who I know would respect my time and I can give the best value to them. Because coming to that, similar question, like everyone has those vintage clients. I mean, you would have like those who stuck with you when you started. So how does one go about, increasing the pricing for those? Because your heart and mind is not at the right place, oh man, I do owe this person something because he was there when I actually needed it. But then it's all about business, right?
Yeah, look, no, ultimately you don't. I'm assuming that usually when you have the vintage clients, you gave them something for that money.
Exactly.
And more than likely what you gave them is worth a lot more than the money they gave you because you were fresh, right? Unless you did a really horrible job and they still stuck by you. Okay, you might take care of those guys a bit more. What I've done is educated people. So my existing client base, I keep in touch with them personally. I'll call them every now and then, catch up with them for a coffee, and I'll fill them in on how the agency's going and how we're growing. And I try to, there's a technique called seeding. So when you have something, a point you want to make to someone, but you don't want to come outright and say it, you'll seed it. So if, let's say I'm having a conversation, having a coffee with a client who I did a website for $500, then I'll tell her how, I just got a client on board who's paying me $10,000 for the website. And, that same client, now I'm letting her know about the clients we have that are 30,000, 45,000, 50,000. And she's so happy for me. But she knows that when next time we speak about something and I give her a rate and it's, I will take care of her. She has been there for a long time. I won't charge her like a full standard brand new, new person rate, but it will be a lot more than what she paid before. And she's aware of that, because every time we catch up, I'm letting her know how things are going. And I've also done right by her at every step of the process, which is very important. You need to do the right thing. As long as you do the right thing, you're usually going to be okay.
Curious, are your clients mostly local in your country, or they are also like overseas?
We've got a little bit of a mix. Primarily, it's local.
Okay.
We have like local businesses near us. Me and my business partner, we both do a lot of networking, and we
Okay.
have our personal networks, and we're known kind of in our area. So we get a lot of clients like that. We also have referral partners. So, graphic designers, business coaches, other developers as well. And then we do a lot of white label work as well. So, but we've started expanding into other countries, not intentionally, just reputation kind of grows.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of tools that we use that aren't necessarily as common. There's another CMS as well that we use in addition to WordPress.
Kirby.
That's really good. Kirby CMS. Yeah, it's we really like it. It's a flat file CMS, very capable, and we work on that. And it means that when people are looking for a solution that isn't WordPress, which funnily enough is happening more and more now, I'm finding it happening, even with our referral partners. Graphic designers are coming board wanting, oh, look, can you do something that isn't WordPress? It's a bit of a trend. I'm saying it's starting to rise a little bit, but we have that. So when people are using that tool, we get a lot of inquiries from that. So so now we're starting to expand internationally, which is huge for us. Very exciting.
Awesome. Now circling back to that fact of, raising prices for your existing clients.
Yep.
Now, the one method that you see, explain is seeding, meeting client face to face. Now, in a lot of agencies who, are in this business, they actually don't meet clients face to face. It's all about, video communication or email. Now here we are not talking about the vintage clients here, like a client who came on board like 2 years back or 3 years back, not when you started agency. Now, how do you even 10% increase in maintenance care will pinch them? So how do you convey this message? Oh man,
honestly, you just email, mass email, letting them know that you're raising your pricing. I'm assuming that people signed up 2 years ago will probably be all on the same rates. So we always charge the same rates for our maintenance. It isn't like one client has one rate, another has another, unless there's it's not standard maintenance. So when there's additional services, then sure, it's going to be a different rate. But all the clients on standard rates, if I need to up them, it's a simple email. Hey, this is the, costs are rising. You've been on the same rate for 2 years. We need to up the fees now. It's going to go up to this much, effective from whatever date. If they have an issue, they'll let you know. Basically, generally, you can afford to lose a few clients if you have. If you're raising your fees, you can afford to lose a few because the clients were still there. Unless you lose all of them, then you're in trouble. But that's usually a sign of a bad business, And look, there's also ways you can overcome any objections. If they complain, you can explain why you're doing that, and
this is the exact same reason why conveying the price hike is the most difficult part, because everyone, or in fact majority of us, are like scared of losing people. Not just losing people, even people who run email lists. If someone unsubscribed, you feel bad. Oh, why this person unsubscribed? So obviously there's a there's a thin line. But then if someone is actually stopping the service that you're providing, actually good for you, because it spares your time to find something or someone who's more valuable or more productive for your business in the long run.
Yeah, no, definitely agreed.
Okay, now while you were working at that agency, the organization previously, you had your own sales lessons for getting business for that company. Now you have your own setup. So which are few sales lessons that you apply in your web agency, because it's your baby now, so you can grow in any direction, any speed as per your requirements. So I'm sure your sales lessons are more radical or more progressive, because it's your own thing. You don't have to reply to someone.
Well, they're actually kind of very similar. So when I was in that role, it was essentially treat it as if it's your business, and so I did. The main reason why I left is because it hit a point where it was no longer treated like your business anymore. The owner decided to, had his direction that he wanted to go in, and I had a different direction I wanted to go in, and it wasn't my business, so I left. Look, probably the biggest one is approaching every person you speak to as if you're a consultant. That has to be one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. if you are a consultant, if you're high grade, if you're the expert in the field, people will listen to what you have to say when you tell them that this is the right solution for them. And if you're genuine about it, if you're speaking from the heart and you tell them, look, this is what you need, they will agree. Assuming you've explained yourself properly. If you're trying to sell to people rather than trying to solve their problem, people can tell, it isn't natural, and then no, you're just another person trying to sell a solution, and they won't go ahead. So that's probably the biggest one. Actually, one thing I would recommend to a lot of people who are doing web work, web agency work, and they want to learn sales and marketing tips, I'll recommend there's a course, WP Elevation.
Yep.
I did that course, and a lot of what they teach is stuff that I was doing and I've learned the hard way as well. So it's a good shortcut. It's not cheap, but it's not expensive, and it can be worth their time just by implementing those rules and their systems and processes. It can help a lot. Yeah.
And during your agency time, you were more focused on getting new clients rather than getting more value from existing clients. I guess that has changed now. You also focus on getting more business from your existing clients?
Both. So probably 95% of people we speak to, they're looking for a website, most of the time. Often as part of that, the solution, we look at their brand and everything, and it's not going to work just a web design. It needs to be a rebrand. So we do the rebrand as well. Once we have them on board, then we're looking at maintaining their website, providing hosting, potentially shifting to digital marketing as well. So I used to run the marketing for the place I used to work at. So we have a few partners we work with for different areas, and then also there's stuff that we do internally. So it's kind of both. If you get clients in, if you keep getting clients in, it gives you opportunity to sell other services to them as well once they're on board and they're happy. So as long as you're doing a good job, keep getting new clients, you'll naturally grow with the other areas too, as long as you're not scared to ask for sales.
Yeah, because when a person comes to you, they only know one thing: I need a website, because they actually do not know that you need more than just a website. You need email marketing, you need Facebook ads, you need even website care. They just think that once done, it's done. It's going to stay like a stone.
Magic.
Yeah, it will stay like a stone. Wind, rain, snow, nothing will affect that. But then you got to teach them, just like your car, it also needs servicing. Now that is where I think the scaling part comes in. Like when a person comes to you for a website, you can throw in and mix in a lot of other things like upselling, productizing your service, even retainers. So have you used that magic?
Yeah. Okay. So like I said about upselling isn't really a thing. You make the right recommendation. Usually, if we're really honest with each other, every single person out there who's selling a website, if they're honest about what's right for the client knows that, and then you generally will get the sale. If you're trying to get the most most money out of them, they know that too, and you won't. So recommend the right solution. Often it is actually the pricier service, because the pricier service is the one we offer the most for. So there's that. Cross-selling is big, more than upselling. I think cross-selling, that's where you lead into retainer work by cross-selling, maintenance and hosting and, marketing, if you can offer that. Productizing, I think you said productizing. Productizing is also very useful to do. If you want to scale, you need to some degree, you need to productize. Whether that is, in our case, what we do is we have, for your standard web projects, we have set prices and set for different modules. So you've got home pages, you've got blogs, you've got other internal pages. You've got, if someone needs the ability to create sales landing pages, we can build that, and there's fixed prices for different things, as well as things like hosting, as well as your basic marketing retainer, as well as blog posting. So all of those things have set prices, and they also have set processes. And that means that it's easy to sell because, you don't have to think about how much it's going to cost. It's easy to train people. Well, not easy. It's actually hard to train people, but it's easier when they have a system to follow rather than them trying to figure it out themselves. So we are very big on quality control. We have our way of doing things, and we make sure that when we hire people that they're going to do it our way, because we know my business partner's been doing web design and development for over 20 years in the space, sort of, design and those areas. So he has systems that really work well. And one of the main reasons why we partnered up and it's been working so well is working with him has improved my skills a lot. And working with me has, improved from the business side of things, what we can do. So we make sure our people work our way. That means that it all works really well. We deliver top quality every single time. But we've had to productize in order to be able to do that. We're now looking at our next three hires. The great thing is once we hire these 3 people, we know that our existing staff can train them a lot. And we just focus on quality control because we know they're going to do it the right way. And we just double check and make sure they are. And the other thing I think you mentioned was retainers. Yep. Retainers are very important. I think that is definitely one area where we aren't quite where we want to be yet. And that's what we're trying to push now with primarily email marketing, actually. We're using email marketing to boost our retainers. But yeah, the retainers are what allow you to breathe. With any agency, when you're doing project work, you sign a project, you sign a couple of big projects, and it's like, wow, look at all this money we have. You start working, and then next 3 months you're working on those projects, you're not getting any more. So the retainers and the recurring revenues are what allow you to cover your bills every single month. Take a wage if you need to take a wage, or cover your expenditure. That's what makes it stable for you.
Yeah, without retainers, it's like after rainy season comes the dry season, which remains there till you find water somewhere. So that's a problem. But there's another problem in our web agency industry. Like, I think it's there in every other agency, but it's more highlighted here. Like, I have a cheaper option. Now you're charging me $10,000. Guess what? I know a person who will charge me $4,000 or maybe $2,000 or maybe $500. Someone who's just starting out, So I'm sure even you get those kind of leads and clients, prospective clients. So how do you handle those kind of clients?
So that's the sales conversation. That's why pricing is one of the last things we discuss. And by the time I give someone a price, they understand that we are the experts. And, look, I've always had big imposter syndrome when I first started out. I always felt man, who's going to give me money to do a website? As I've been around now, like for a good 3 plus 4 years in the web space, in actual selling websites, I've seen what competitors do. I've seen what clients have to start with. I've learned a lot about, design, professional design, development. I've seen the standards of what we do versus a lot of the others. And I know we are very, very good at what we do. So when I speak to clients, I educate them on a lot of things that other web agencies can't, because they don't have the background. They don't know marketing well enough. They don't know professional design. Someone who's just, all they've done is picked up a page builder and built a website for themselves and then gone, you know what, I can sell this for a living. Sure, they're going to be $1,500 or something, and I'm going to be $15,000 for the same, not the same thing, but for a website, maybe it might not be that much. But let's say as an example, but I can get that client. And the reason why is because I can educate them on what we do, and why that matters, and how that gets them a result, and how something for $1,500 more than likely won't. We also do custom development as part of our process. So, when you're looking at a site that's being custom built and custom built properly, with a really nice, clean, tight code base, the performance of that is amazing. And, there's a lot of SEO benefits when you do it that way. So, you start running through all these things and explain to people how much of a difference that makes. They're happy. One of the biggest things I get is with a lot of small businesses is that they tell me that they never imagined they were going to spend that much on a website. And I'm not saying we're expensive. If I'm speaking to businesses that are not small, it's actually very, very affordable for them. They're really happy with the pricing. But when it's a small business, they're like, wow, that's a lot of money compared to what I expected. They think $5,000 is a lot of money. And then they're spending $12,000, let's say, with us. But they know that site they're going to get is going to achieve the result for them, and they know that they're dealing with professionals. And so, yes, there's always someone who'll do it cheaper. Even at $500, there's people, when I was first starting out, I had people comparing and going, oh, look, there's this service that I can pay $99 a month for a website.
Yeah, because people see the, say, GoDaddy advertisement, get a website for
Yep.
$30
Yeah.
or $40, but they don't understand it's just a domain name,
Yep.
not a website.
Yeah.
But how the things are, marketed, and the whole perception is built. It's the website is very cheap commodity, which is actually not. If you want a website that actually works for your business.
Well, the website itself is a commodity. The working website is not, and
Yeah.
that's where like we generally don't get those types of people anymore. Mostly because our positioning is that we don't target people who are getting their first website. Very rarely. We're targeting people who are getting their second, third, fourth. People who are spending decent amounts of money on marketing already. Because they're the people who understand the value. When I explain all these things to them, they get the value, and they're not looking at necessarily the price as their driver.
And most of the time when you get the lead, do you pick up your phone or do a video call or just meet the person in person? Like, how do you do it majority of times?
So, majority of the time, there's always an initial phone call because I was always willing to go meet anyone. After a while, you realize that it's not sustainable. You end up meeting too many people who are wasting your time. So I have a first phone call that, is let's get to know each other. Let's see if we think it's worthwhile meeting. And I basically use that to qualify the person and see if they're going to be worth meeting. And if they are, then I will meet with them if I can, or I'll do a video chat if I can't meet in person. I think it's going to be a lot more video chat now as we've been growing. But I'm quite happy to meet in person. I know that me speaking to someone is what is going to get them to go ahead, not an email. Very, very hard to really explain properly via an email because people don't read. No one wants to read anymore.
Yeah, if you add more than 2 paragraphs, it's just like they won't read. Yeah. So that's point. Right. Because on video, it's more conversational. They can ask you questions impromptu and get clarification. And you can even record the video and send them a copy, like for reference, or send them a few minutes of video. Because a lot of people do that. They even send a summary of what is discussed on video, just to keep things fresh in clients' head, because even they don't have time to watch the video replay and all that. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's switch gears and talk about your toolbox. So which are your current 5 favorite tools that power your online?
Okay. I'm going to take away the actual design and development tools because they're going to change for everyone. Okay. So I'm going to look at ones to run the business. So the brains of the business is Notion.so. It's kind of like a database tool. You can build your own databases within it. We use that for project management as a basic CRM, internal wiki, and it's not the perfect tool, but there's no perfect tool. We've gone through so many. But it's good enough for us. We're just waiting now for them to build an API so we can do some automation based on what's happening in it. One that you mentioned, Better Proposals. That's one of my favorites, mostly because it's always good news with that one. It's people giving us money, so I like that. Slack is really good for internal chat, just making sure everyone's working and checking in with people. We use Skype or Zoom, one or the other. I'm going to take them as the same tool. They're both pretty good. And that's for video chat, either with prospective clients or just with our team. The screen sharing is really important, so we can show something and run through it together. Probably Xero, accounting software, because, you do all our invoicing through that. Also track expenditure, reporting. I think it's really important. I think looking at your numbers is very important and knowing, how you're traveling. So, yeah.
And which is your recommended web hosting service, considering I think you also host client websites, right?
Yeah. Okay. So, for WordPress, usually what I recommend to people is Cloudways and running on a Vultr server. I found that pretty good. Very, very good for WordPress. Good if you're reasonably savvy. If you're not technical at all, then I usually recommend either WP Engine or Kinsta. WP Engine, I've had some issues with them in the past with their caching, but they're pretty solid most of the time, and I'd imagine they would have fixed their caching issues by now. So, yeah.
And which is a recommended page builder plugin? I guess you do build websites using Page Builder. No one can escape that.
Still do. Still do. Usually we when the page builder is involved, it's one of our solutions where when someone's on a bit more of a budget, and I still want to help them. We don't do it as often anymore. I used to. That's how I built my business, using page builders. Beaver Builder is my favorite at the moment. Still is, has been for a long time. Elementor isn't bad, but the more I use it, the more I miss Beaver Builder. So yeah, look, Beaver Builder is pretty powerful, very stable. You know, you can do what you need to do with it. You know, and you can like, people think that, oh, Elementor is better for design. Beaver Builder is pretty amazing for design too. So yeah, so I really like Beaver Builder.
And any recommended email marketing service like you use for your own business, or you set up email marketing for your clients?
Yeah, sure. MailerLite, actually. A mutual friend of ours, Moore Cohen, recommended MailerLite to me a while ago. Before that, I was using... Yeah.
I'm going to try that very soon.
Yeah, well, I used to use ActiveCampaign, and then I stopped using any email marketing for ages. And then when I went back to ActiveCampaign, their price had gone like 5 times as much.
It's an elephant in the room.
Yeah, very expensive. So, you know, and a lot of the features, I mean, okay, so online, everyone makes recommendations, you know, and so if you go and look online, what's the best email marketing tool, you're going to get all these recommendations, and they're going to be for something like ActiveCampaign or Infusionsoft. And realistically, you need to look at what you use it for. The right tool for the right job. If you're not going to use that level of automation, that extensive level, why pay that money? Just get something cheaper. You know, MailChimp is fine. MailerLite, I'm liking. I really like how you build emails in it. It gives you a lot of cool options and has a lot of cool automation as well.
Cool. And any upcoming tool or service that has caught your eye attention recently?
Yeah, look, it's probably less of interest to the audience, but Figma, which is a collaborative design tool.
We use Sketch. Use it.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. So we use Sketch now, and we're playing with Figma, mostly because, you know, we've got 3 different designers in-house. Very hard when you're using Sketch files and you want to collaborate on a project, because you have to put it into Notion, download it, look at it, you make your changes. And we've had times where we've lost which version we're on, you know, and gone backwards a couple of steps. So we're looking at Figma now, which we may move to. It's pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of people use it, and the best part is online. You know, you can just share the link, and it's there, and it doesn't matter whether you're using Windows, Mac, which browser.
Yeah, or you're on your phone and you're sitting on the couch holding your 10-month-old daughter, and someone needs a decision on a design direction, and you don't want to get up and jump on your computer. You can pull your phone out and open it and look at it at the very least. So, yeah, and that's happened to me a couple of times now, where I haven't been able to review a design because I'm not going to interrupt my time with my daughter for some work. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So before we wrap this episode, so anyone who is stuck in his agency life in terms of scaling up in sales, getting more clients, what are 3 things you will suggest real quick to that person running that agency?
Okay. Trouble scaling, look at how you're getting clients, what you're doing to attract leads. So you need a system to generate leads.
Mm-hmm.
You need a system to have the conversation with that lead to turn them into a client. It's 2 things. That's it. And be prepared. Don't say yes to everyone. You know, say no to people who are wrong, right?
Learn
to say no.
Yeah, I learned it like after 2-3 years of being in business. Like, it wasn't easy in the beginning to say no to people, to be honest. I guess it's the same. It's same for everyone. It takes 1 or 2 years to learn to say no. Right?
Well, you know what? It's usually financial. When you're in a situation where, you know, you're in business for yourself, you need the income.
Yeah.
You know, and the hardest thing, and this is one I've done both. I've gone both ways on this, and it's there's one way that always works out best for me. It's very hard when you've got, let's say, a mortgage payment to make or rent, for example, and an opportunity comes up and it's a terrible opportunity, but you need the money and you know they're going to go ahead. You maybe have to discount to get it or whatever, and you don't want to do it, but you do just to make the money so you can survive. That saying no to that is very, very tricky when you're in that situation because it's down to survival. And the only thing I have to say to that is say no anyway. Focus on the next one. Don't sit there feeling sorry for yourself. Focus on getting the next lead. Lead generation is very, very important. You need to be like my job now, I see myself as, I'm not a designer, I'm not a developer, I'm not a marketer. Well, I'm a marketer, but I'm a marketer for ourselves. My job is to get us clients. Me and my business partner, that's our primary job. We're not spending as much time as we'd like on it because we have to still design, we still have to develop, we still have to, do team management. But our job is to get the clients, and that is very, very important to grow, a business, have a livable business.
Awesome. So before we wrap this episode, where can people find you?
That's actually tricky. Okay, so Creative Click is our agency. We have one of the hardest names to type out. It is CRE8IV.click.
I'm gonna link in the post.
Yeah. So I'm actually working with More Cohen on doing a personal brand for me. Just because sometimes I have ideas that I want to blog about that aren't appropriate for agency blog. So she's going to help me do that because I don't have... if there's one person you're going to go with for a personal brand, More Cohen is the person you go with for a personal brand. So
absolutely
work with the best. Yeah.
Okay, man. Cool. It was amazing talking to you. I'm sure
thank you so much.
Enjoyed it. Have a good day.
Yeah, no, it was really enjoyable. Thank you so much. Thanks, Davinda. See you.